Hello everyone and welcome to another very exciting game, this time from round 5 of the 37th European Club Cup. It is Anton Korobov versus Magnus Carlsen, yet another very strong opponent on the Magnus Carlsen's path to 2900 classical ELO rating. And if you've ever seen Anton Korobov play, you know that he's just incredibly strong in any time format, so regardless of what you play, you will not have a good time playing against this gentleman. And in the previous video, we've shown a game where Anand and Mamedyarov just brawled it out with 20 moves of known theory. Then Mamedyarov prepared that exchange sacrifice, and they both played like incredibly well. Like it was a really precise game. But this game, no theory. I know that's your favorite. So we will have like 3 moves of known theory. So Anton Korobov has the white pieces and he opens with d4. Magnus plays knight to f6, we have knight to f3, d5, and now pawn to e3, the so-called call system. And here Magnus plays a6. Now a6 is rare in itself, but Korobov replies with a move that is even rarer. He plays pawn to b3. Now Magnus plays bishop to f5, and now there are a few games where bishop to b2 was played, but Anton plays bishop to a3, just saying, okay, now you can't push the e-pawn because I'm gonna mess up your castling. And it is now as of move 5 that we have a completely new game. So what does Magnus do? Exactly that. He plays pawn to e6 and he invites Anton to capture on f8, which he does. Bishop captures, king captures, and now bishop to e2. So what is Magnus's plan? You might be thinking, okay, he's going to play something like g6, put a king on g7 and castle artificially. Not really. He plays knight to c6, we have castles, and now just pawn to h5, just in the style of old master, just going full barbarian mode. We have pawn to c4, and now Magnus pushes h4, and I was really weirded out when I saw this, because this is how I play bullet. Knight to c3, Anton playing just normal positional chess, and now knight to e4 by Magnus. You know, put your pieces as close to the opponent's king as possible. We have rook to c1, and already it's move 11, Magnus does a rook lift, rook to h6. Now the rook can go to g6 and put even more pressure on the white king. So here we have c captures on d5. Anton exchanges a pair of pawns, e captures, and the knight to d2, continuing very nicely with the positional play. Magnus captures on c3, rook captures, and queen to d6, now putting more pressure on black's position. And now, regardless of what the engine says, it's I don't know, I guess it's pretty clear of which pieces you prefer here. But okay, queen to c1, very nicely played by Anton, just paralyzing that knight. If the knight moves, then rook captures on c7 will be devastating. So Magnus figures it out. He plays rook to e8, and after bishop to f3, now he just plays rook to e7. Now the c7 pawn is nicely defended, and the knight can enter the game. And now, how do you continue this? Well, one thing you should prevent is Magnus pushing h3. It's just a very nasty move. So you can play something like h3, and now if rook to g6, threatening some bishop captures on h3 action, you can play king to h1. Just get out of harm's way, and now it would be up to Magnus to decide how he would continue playing this. The engine, interestingly, gives the top line as a repetition of moves: king h2, queen d6, check, king to h1, queen d7, and king to h2. But I mean, who would play something like this? So Anton plays something very interesting. He plays rook to c5 with the clear idea that the bishop on f5 is undefended, and he prepares something special. But Magnus says, your specialty does not work with me, and he just goes knight to b4. And this should have been prevented. Now the knight has access to the d3 square, and this is a problem. But okay, this is Anton's plan. Knight to c4 attacks the queen, and now if Magnus captures, then just rook captures on f5, and everything is perfectly fine for white. But instead Magnus just moves the queen to e6, and okay, the knight is still hanging. So the problem is you can't really play knight to e5 because then f6 traps the knight, so the knight has to go back. So here we have knight to b2, and now the incredible pawn to h3, and of course g3, and now Magnus just grabs a pawn and attacks Anton's queen on c1. So queen to d2, and now comes bishop to e4 as Anton weakened the light squares and trade of a light square bishop would go a long way. Then Magnus would have some queen e4, queen g2 checkmating ideas. So Anton moves it back, bishop to e2, and now we reach the position from the thumbnail. Well, almost. The rook on c5 is in a terrible spot because, well, these squares are covered by the knight, this is covered by the bishop, this is covered by the pawn. So here Magnus just plays b6 and takes away the only two squares the rook had left. And it seems like Anton can just resign now, but that's why chess is such an interesting game. Of course, Anton did not resign. Anton played knight to a4, and he created this very, very tricky position on the board that you guys will have to solve. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find the absolute best continuation for Magnus while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on not grabbing the rook. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is actually moving the bishop somewhere, here or here or here. Best is here. This is where Magnus put it, as it's not going to get in the way of any of your pieces regarding of the line that Korobov plays. The problem with capturing the rook is that, okay, you capture the rook, but then knight captures, attacks the queen, and you will also win the knight back. So it's not as great. And the knight gets this beautiful outpost. For example, queen f5, you're just going to capture queen, captures on a2, and it's not as clear how you are going to continue this, and you will not be checkmating white anytime soon if you play something like bishop to f3. If you want to trade, just bishop to d3 attacks the black queen. So there is counterplay here. So for those of you who found bishop back to h7 or f5 or g6 is fine, h7 is the best, congratulations, as you are truly a master of attacking chess. Now of course, if the knight is captured, then Magnus had planned queen to e4, and here you just resign. The only defense would be to play f3, but that's really no defense. Just captures with check. You have to play rook f2 to guard the bishop. Now b captures on c5. The rook can now be captured, and if knight captures on c5, just queen captures on d4. And good luck finding a move here. There are even tricks. Okay, the knight is hanging. Let's say if b4, even bishop to b1, attacking the queen to grab the bishop on e2, and it's the only move you have, as all of these squares are covered by the queen and by the bishop. So let's say captures, rook captures, now threatens to capture here. Queen f1, and your queen will be stuck here, let's say rook a2, for the rest of the game. It will be a very sad game for white, but you can play it. So after bishop to h7, Anton instead plays rook to e1, and the situation on the clock is some 9 minutes for Anton and 20 minutes for Magnus. The idea is that, okay, Anton knows that he will have to play f3, but maybe he can continue fighting this. So Magnus goes queen to e4. Again, you can't just capture on c5. If you capture on c5, then knight captures on c5, and after queen to f5, there's queen captures on a2. Again, it's not that clear how to win this with black. So instead, we have queen to e4 by Magnus, now just threatening checkmate, forcing f3, and now queen captures on e3 with check, queen captures, rook captures, and now there's really not all that much. The position is just completely winning. And also, if you guys were wondering, after queen e4, if you have to play f3, why not bishop to f1 guarding checkmate? Because then the rook can be captured. As now, after knight captures on c5 attacking the queen, there's queen c2. The bishop now guards the queen here, and you will not be winning the knight on a2. So okay, after queen e4, f3 captures, the queen trade is on the board, and now there's really not a good move in sight. Anton played rook captures on c7, but just now rook to e6 goes after the bishop here, and now king to f2. Nicely defending, but the position plays itself. Magnus goes bishop to d3. Now Anton will have to give up some material here. If he doesn't want to give up a piece, he's going to have to give up the exchange. So bishop captures, rook captures on e1, winning the exchange. g4 now. But just knight to b4. Magnus introduces the knight back into the game. Bishop to f5 attacks the rook, and now rook 1 to e2. Sorry, rook 1 to e2 with check. King to g3, and now Magnus goes rook to d6. Also possible is just rook g2. You give up this pawn, and then you just destroy the white king this way. Magnus went the other way around. He played rook d6. Now comes rook to b7, putting pressure on the b pawn. But now g6 attacking the bishop, and after the bishop moved to d7, now just pawn to g5, and he was in this position on move 34 that Anton Korobov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. The b6 pawn, of course, cannot be captured because, well, the rook is stuck guarding the bishop on d7, and you really don't have a move you can play. If you go for king captures on h3, then you just get checkmated, rook h6 check, and after king g3, rook e captures on h2, and now this will just be checkmate regardless of what white plays. Another thing you might try is pawn to f4, but it's also not great. It just captures, knight to d3 with check. Let's say king g5, now rook captures on h2. You move the rook, you push the pawn, you promote it to a queen. Easy win. There are no threats here for white. So really, an incredible attacking game by Magnus. Just went all out. I mean, every move was an attacking move. From this e6, just allowing Korobov to spoil his castling. Then just h5, h4, knight comes to e4. The rook lift comes into the game. I mean, such a wild attacking game. And Anton played it well up until this rook to c5 move. He wanted to get out of it tactically, when a nice h3 would probably hold the position better. But yeah, Magnus really surprised him nicely, and another game by Magnus played in the style of old masters. I love it. I hope we see more, and with the black pieces against such a strong player like Anton Korobov. So that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Magnus improves his rating. He gained now, like, he's like up plus 3.5, so he is you know, again going forward in his quest to 2900 classical rating. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's a big quest. So yeah, once again, hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Ante Venma, Music, Jose Palacio, Chris Malan, and GJ for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.